European Expansionism, Lesson 5.4. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to learn how did the desire and means to explore foster an expansionist worldview. So let's find out. Stick around and let's learn something. European Expansion, Lesson 5.4. How did the desire and means to explore foster an expansionist worldview? There's that word again, worldview. That's what the entire chapter is all about. And we're going to pull some information here, some background knowledge from our grade 7 social studies curriculum in Canadian history. We're going to pull things that we have learned in previous lessons here in grade 8 social to take a look at European expansionism during this time frame in our story of world history. And this is all about European expansion. And this is a great feat. So in 1492, you know the rhyme, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and discovered, my air quotations are happening right now, you can't see it, but it's happening, the discovery of North America. And this kind of sparked a boom, and this was really exciting for the Europeans. And it was within 100 years that the Europeans circumnavigated the entire planet, which is, from our point of view right now, you can circle the planet by plane, I don't know, in 20 hours, 24 hours, I'm not sure. But from Australia to New York is probably 18 hours or so. I could be wrong. If you've done this trip before, excuse me for not knowing the actual time. But what I'm trying to get at is we can talk about circumnavigating the planet in terms of hours now. Back then it was years. But for the technology that they had, going around and circumnavigating the world within 100 years is absolutely an amazing feat. And this was a competition between the European nations to try and find the best routes and to try and find these new discoveries. Again, I'm doing my air quotations. You can't see it, but I'm doing it. And it led to all kinds of new ideas from a European perspective. And it becomes a part of their worldview, this expansionism. They want to increase the power and the world by expanding their territory. They believe that ethnocentrism there, that they are the best. They believe that the world is theirs for the taking. So how does this all start? Well, this first starts by going east. We know that Asia is in the east, and this is something that the Europeans desire. And it was Portugal, you remember from the last lesson, Prince Henry, the navigator, he's Portuguese. Portugal is the first country to actually organize some sort of exploration to the east. We're trying to get to the east. Well, in order to get to the east, we actually have to go south. You'll see in the map on the next page. But they start going east by going down south to West Africa, okay? And then they're making their way down. They're following the coast all the way down. And as they're going, they're discovering gold. And they're making these stops along the way. And then trade routes are eventually developed because of that. And they get involved, the Portuguese get involved in the slave trade. And this already existed before the arrival of the Europeans, but the Europeans definitely took part in this trade. And the Europeans continued this slave trade, as you learned last year in Social Studies 7, over to the Americas, which lasted for the next 3 centuries. And they were heavily involved in that. Here's what the Portuguese did. So and you can see here on the map, Portugal is in Europe there. And to get to the east, to get to India, they have to go south first. So the Portuguese developed this practice. What they would do is at each stop that they would make landfall, they would hire the local population to become their interpreters. They would then gain the trust using said interpreters And that's how a trade route gets established with the local population. So this is benefiting the local population. This is benefiting the Portuguese, of course. And we know from our European history lessons here that obviously it's not a fair trade that is being established. The Europeans are going to be taking advantage of this trade to better themselves. And the Portuguese weren't the only ones that were racing here to get to the east. Spain was trying to do the same thing. Okay, so Portugal decided we're going to go south. Africa is something that we have some familiarity with, so we are going to go south. So what Spain decided to do, they decided to go the other way. We're going to go west to Africa. This was their goal. We know this. We've talked about this before, even last year in grade 7. And then, in air quotations again, Spain then discovers the Americas. The race to the east is won by Portugal. They're the first ones that reach India. They're using the African route, and they develop these regular trade routes along the way. So in terms of racing to the east, Portugal wins this one, hands down. The Portuguese made regular trips to India using these routes, and they weren't the only ones in the area that were trading. Okay, Arab merchants were there as well. So the new kids on the block, these Portuguese, they show up, and Arabs already have an established trade network there, and they're like, "Wait a second, this is you're stepping on my territory. This is my land. Get off my turf," kind of thing, if you will. So the Arabs, they attacked the smaller Portuguese fleet that is now present just outside of India here. But the Portuguese had cannons. Even though they were a much smaller fleet, they had these cannons, and they were able to hold off the Arabs that were there. And that kind of made the Portuguese a dominant force to be reckoned with over on this part of the trade routes. And because of that, they were able to establish these trade routes all the way along the Europe and India route. And because of these trade routes, Portugal then becomes the most powerful trading country of the 1500s. Okay, that's Portugal, going east by going south. We mentioned earlier the Spanish. Well, the Spanish, they decide we are going west. And they decided to go west, and we'll learn more about this in Unit 2, but they decided to go west because they believed it was much quicker than going south. Going south took a really long time. So Columbus goes and convinces King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella to finance his trip to the west, and he finds land within 33 days. His goal is to find Asia and to get gold and to get spices, and he honestly believed that when he went to the Caribbean, when he landed on the Caribbean, that he found Asia, that he was somewhere off of the coast of India, somewhere, who knows where. And that's what his belief was. Later, this guy here, we have the picture here, this is Magellan. He's also a Spanish navigator. He continued with Columbus's work, and he actually made it all the way to the Philippines by going west, down the coast of South America and around there, and all the way to the Philippines. Unfortunately, Magellan dies. He's killed, probably a mutiny, or the Filipinos killed him. I'm not 100% sure. And the new captain takes over and makes his way back to Spain. And this is the first known voyage to circumnavigate the world. Started in Spain, went all the way west, and came back to Spain. That whole journey took 3 years or so to complete. And that's a big feat. So in exploration history, that is something that you definitely want to remember. All right, I want you to head over to your notebook and complete the questions for this part of the chapter.